moment of silence observed here.
Today's International Women's Day, and we're proud to introduce Katrina Theopharmus to toss the coin today.
Kickoff of a storied rivalry clash entering in to its 60th year here at Lakeside Stadium tonight. The 118th Greek derby between South Melbourne and Heidelberg United.
And congratulate her on her fine achievements with our club, and more importantly, on today's International Women's Day.
60 major honours at both a national and state level between them over the years. And they get set to meet for the 21st time tonight in NPL Victoria for one of their biggest clashes in recent meetings. Undefeated, both sides to start the season, top of the table 1 and 2 respectively. That's what awaits us to kickstart round 5 of the NPL Victoria. South Melbourne, the home side, out for revenge. They've lost 3 of their last Greek derby clashes against the Burgers. Their worst run in the NPL era in this fixture. But where the league standings are concerned, they sit top. And it's as you were. But for Heidelberg United, it's a bit of a different story. They are resurgent under new coach John Anastasiadis, a familiar South face, of course, a champion player and coach, no stranger to this fixture. But he's got his new side singing early doors in NPL Victoria, and how he would love to keep the good times rolling with a win in his first Greek derby in 17 years. The music, the off-field spectacle is delivering. There's been plenty of narrative going into the game. He is hoping the on-field product matches it all. Thank you for your company for it, wherever you're joining us from on NPL Victoria YouTube. Lockie Flanagan, joined tonight by Oscar Rutherford. Hello, Oscar.
Lucky, if this doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will. Like you said, it's the biggest match between these two sides that we've had for a number of years, and that's really exciting. Johnny A's got Heidelberg humming early in the season, and South Melbourne just keep doing South Melbourne things under Esteban Quintas. A different kind of matchup I think we're in for tonight, with a whole new play style that Heidelberg bring. But like I say, it's hard not to be excited when you've got two behemoths of Victorian football.
And it's a rare one when the actual form and ladder positions of the team is almost like the second, it's almost the B side of this story. I mean, even if Heidelberg had had a slow start, the fact that it is John Anastasiadis returning to, a club in South Melbourne where he is a legend, and as both a player and a coach, a multiple-time NSL winner, took this team to a VPL championship in 2006. Now, that would be good enough, but the fact that Heidelberg are flying to start the campaign makes it all the juicier. And there's an early ball over the top looking for Andy Brennan. It's rolled all the way into the box. Perfect start for South. And Harrison Sawyer is becoming inevitable again in NPL Victoria. Well, for all the anticipation, the expectation, it's another fast start for South thanks to Harrison Sawyer, and this time it's in the Greek derby.
How happy South are to have Harry Sawyer back up top. He just can't stop scoring ever since his return to Victorian football, and to do it on this stage in a game as big as this so early, it's the perfect start for South Melbourne, and Heidelberg, who came into this game off so
Goal
much
scorer for South Melbourne FC, the captain, number 9, Harrison Sawyer. The score is South Melbourne.
You cannot ask for a better captain's goal than that. The goal music is playing here at Lakeside after 94 seconds. And really, Harrison Sawyer, not to take anything away from him, he scores early in 2 massive clashes. The original Melbourne derby in round 1, and now in the Greek derby against Heidelberg. Not to take anything away from those feats, it was pretty lax defending from Heidelberg to allow it to happen in the first place.
They're not in a position to switch off here either, Lucky. We're seeing the first look at the long throw from Max Mikola. They reached so many of South Melbourne's goals so early in the season. Which launches one into the area. Souza gets 2 fists on it. The chance is still alive. The shot came in from Andy Brennan. South Melbourne have started this game on absolute fire, Lockie. Heidelberg having a hard time containing them.
They are well up for it, and haven't even had a chance to really run through the changes to the 11, and it was one of the players who's been restored. Heidelberg's captain on the ball now, Adrian Zara, who I don't think he was necessarily at fault for the goal or anything like that, but Andy Brennan just managed to slip in behind him, and I've got to say the cross from Brennan, I don't know about you, Oscar, but to me it seemed quite a tame one, but just no Heidelberg defender managed to get a touch, and Harrison Sawyer in the form he's in, that's 6 goals now, I believe, on his return to South, says, well, thank you very much. It's a bit of a freebie.
For South to a complete reversal of their start to last week's game where they were caught cold by Manningham. That's clearly, you'd imagine, been a focus for Esteban Quintas during the week to not be caught cold again. And they've really done the opposite of that, as we see Jamal Ali and Max Mikola wrestling. And the free kick has been called the way of South Melbourne, and we've got our first booking of the game as well, Lockie. It's been just about the best possible start for South Melbourne and a nightmare situation for Johnny A and Heidelberg. You see a more conventional delivery coming up from Max Mikola. Coming into tonight, the only goal that Heidelberg had conceded all season was from a set piece. Not dissimilar situation to this against Oakley. You would have thought that that would have been the main route to goal, but Harry Sawyer proving us wrong early on. And now Mikola looking to double South's early advantage. He goes low and flat with the cross. It's relatively comfortably dealt with. Andy Brennan asked to do some work on the right-hand side. Here is Brennan, faces the challenge from Zara, but comes away with possession, does the winger. Brennan plays the cross back in. Lepikal was there to help get out of trouble, and the foul on Idara means that pressure is relieved, at least for the moment, on Heidelberg.
Well, it goes without saying, Oscar, that it's what a start for South Melbourne at large, but particularly what a start for Andy Brennan. Obviously, one of the 2 players who's been restored to South starting 11 tonight. Obviously, Javi Lopez. I think a lot of South fans will be grateful to see him returning from injury this week. But Brennan I really liked his impact off the bench last week, even if he never got a goal to show for it against Manningham. He's been rewarded with the start in, one of the biggest games South will play all year, and already has an assist to his name inside the opening 5.
Well, he did everything but score against Manningham, did Andy Brennan. You mentioned Javi Lopez also back into the 11. I mean, you'd hardly notice, based on the way the game's played out so far, he's been more or less a spectator as the South Melbourne shot stopper. Although, of course, Andy Brennan's inclusion does come at the expense of Emil Payos, who is another player who really impressed last week at Petty's reserve. Brennan and South have made a lightning start at Lakeside tonight. And this throw will demand everything that Max Mikola has. So Mars is more or less standing on the mark as he attempts to off-foot Max Mikola. And well, with all of the delays, we've got our 2nd yellow card of the evening, Lockie.
It was Mikola that time, I believe, in the book.
Complaining a little bit too often as we see the long ball sent in. Heidelberg once again look to escape. This is Lampard on the 2nd phase. It's a good curling delivery. So he got a head to it, but the offside flag was raised. And Heidelberg, well, they've hardly been able to get out of their final third, or their back third, I should say. South Melbourne have them pinned back in this first 7 minutes.
It's been a breathtaking, impressive start from South. I've barely had to call a Heidelberg player's name so far in this game. The press has been stiff, and it's produced another turnover. A snapshot that time from, it might have been less Archibald potentially on the edge of the box, but it was Mohamed Idara who was just robbed of possession all too easily. And yeah, the cliche that you can be up for it where a derby is concerned, it's thrown around a little bit too, I guess, lazily sometimes when it comes to talking about big fixtures, but again, still plenty of football to be played. certainly seeming to be ringing true so far for South. They have been relentless. Sawyer and flicked, but just missed by Bernarda. Archibald asking the question in behind Adrian Zara. Brennan tries to whisk it back into the box and wins a corner. The South fans are loving every second of the opening 10 minutes here at Lakeside.
I think if you asked Esteban Quintas, describe for me your ideal first 10 minutes of this game.
We are literally seeing it.
This is it. They're seeing it. Ball sent in once more from the corner. Hills for a handball. Referee gesturing towards the thigh, I think. So Heidelberg will get away with that for the moment. Lampard once more goes direct. And the header back across from Archibald is comfortably claimed by Yaron Souza. And perhaps finally a chance for Heidelberg to get out of their own half with Idara. And these moments really important for the Burgers, just to get some time in possession and to relieve some pressure on the back line.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really, they have been quite impressive, particularly with the ball at feet so far, Heidelberg, under their new head coach, John Anastasiadis. But as you mentioned, they've barely had any time to actually get on it. That might nearly be about to change here, but an unfortunate deflection, really, that sums up the opening 10 that the Burgers have had off the body of Leo Marzis. But they just haven't had time to breathe on the ball. South Melbourne's press has been extreme in its intensity. There's been a lot of hype around Johnny A's new look Burgers. Now they really are asked to deliver. Marzis was offside, and that's a really frustrating one for the Burgers, as Nicholas Olsen was in a promising position, picked out by the pass. Well, I guess even the fact that they were able to work the ball into the final third, Heidelberg, even if it was through an offside player, is progress from what we've seen so far.
Beggars can't be choosers lucky, and Heidelberg will take anything they can get right at the moment, and hopefully for them it'll create a kind of foundation on which they can build for the remainder of the half.
Thumper into the night sky. Collins is able to glance it away. A bit of head tennis happening here, eventually brought to an end by Aiden Federhajic, who has been taken off possession by Bernarda. He takes out the corner flag. Some robust defending from the Heidelberg duo. I wonder if the sting of those 3 straight defeats has been really playing on the mind of South Melbourne in this particular fixture. Particularly Heidelberg doing the double over them last year when they had the Burgers such a poor season. Mikola's long throw. Jankovic is there. Just couldn't glance the header on target, but another promising opportunity from the set piece for South. It was Marko Jankovic getting his head on the end of it. Marzis, that was a great first touch. And now Idara. The only thing you do wonder, I suppose, Oscar, is that intensity that South did bring to the opening 10. Is it sustainable across the 90? Do we see maybe South either choosing to settle into a rhythm or Heidelberg taking a bit of control now? I guess let's find out is the answer.
Well, lucky we did see last week when South Melbourne roared back from 2-0 down to beat Manningham 5-2. This kind of intensity and this pressing, they maintained it for the better part of an hour, so we know that they've got it in the tank to go for a long, long time, and you wonder if the game plan is to get out of sight of Heidelberg by the time the halftime whistle arrives. As you mentioned, it's borderline impossible to maintain it for a full 90, but they can do a lot of damage in 45 minutes or an hour, South Melbourne. So we see the long ball played up by the home team. Plenty of involvement there you saw from Leo Marzis early in the game, but it's Max Mikola who comes away with the ball. Not quite on the same page as Jordan Lampard. part, of course, breaking the Bernardo Sawyer duopoly on goals for South Melbourne up to that point of the season, last time around. I was pretty excited coming into the game, Lockie, to give the stat. I mean, do you know when the last time was that these two teams in the league played out a 0-0?
I actually don't. It's a very good question.
2011. 2011,
wow.
Lockie.
That was a long time.
It's been a long time, so perhaps not a huge surprise that we already have troubled the scorers with Harrison Sawyer adding his name to the list. The time before that was, I believe, 2005. So they don't happen very often, 0-0s in the league between Heidelberg and South Melbourne.
Indeed, they won't be happening tonight. It's an interesting all-time head-to-head, of course. South Melbourne just... Well, they've got the lead in the long game, 56 to 40, but the Burgers, as they were for many years the dominant side in this competition, at their peak, I guess, in the late 2010s under George Katsakis, it's actually they who got the better of South Melbourne in the NPL era. So the margin is narrow, but 10-8 in favour of the Burgers. They've won more games here at Lakeside, so you can certainly, you go through those sort of stats and you can start to see the fuel that Esteban Quintas might have been using to say, hey boys, we need to get up for this game. Jara twists and turns. There's blue shirts in every direction. Yokokawa, former Japan Youth International. It's had a really bright start to life in NPL Victoria. It was a hot pass for Shepherd, but he made it look good with the control. Couldn't quite honor it in the actual outfield pass. That one was a solid one, though, from Bernarda. And now Mikkel has been set 3 on the left-hand side. Brennan the only target, but the numbers will amass. But, well, Mikkel elected to pull the trigger early, and it was catching practice for Yaron Souza. Staying on side there was Josh Pinn. Just stops and props, waits for the numbers to amass.
Really noticeable, Lockie, how quickly Heidelberg are trying to get the ball out of their back third when they get the chance. Yaron Souza is wasting no time, and you'd imagine that that's an attempt to bypass the press that South Melbourne have been so effective with. And it's allowed Heidelberg to avoid getting stuck right at the back for the last 5 or so minutes. So it's working well, and Yaron Souza is playing a big part in that system.
Really interesting battle emerging early doors, this one, between Leo Marzis and South Melbourne youngster Morgan Evans. Hasn't he had a good start to the season, the 21-year-old? Already making appearance number 43 in the league for South Melbourne. Good numbers for someone who's still at the tender age of 21. Heidelberg take their turn at a long throw. South get bodies to the ball first, but Olsen, the inventive outside of the foot cross, nearly sits in the middle for Pinn, who has 2 cracks at it. But eventually, tonight's referee, Astro Sakalis, draws play dead. I think maybe the use of the hand there from Josh Pinn, perhaps.
Well, the ultimate irony would be if Heidelberg were able to get back into this game via a long throw. That's the mind game as much as anything, as a tactical play from the Burgers. Although it's a little bit more difficult when you don't have the rocket of Max Nicola to launch them right into the middle of the box more often than not. Just getting a bit more of an involvement here from Harvey Lopez for just about the first time in this game. So important for South is Lopez. You don't perhaps notice it as much because of how difficult the team is to break down, but on the rare occasion that opposition do get through, more often than not, Harvey Lopez is there. As we see a ball played long over the top, Brennan and Sawyer getting in each other's way a little bit, and the offside flag going up. Not sure if both of those players would have been called offside, Lockie, or if perhaps Harrison Sawyer's got a bit ahead of himself.
It would have been a really interesting question to answer, because it's not the first time where Harrison Sawyer has had a player on his shoulder who arguably could have been onside, and he's gone for the ball himself. Whether or not they were actually onside on either instance is interesting, but I mean, Harrison Sawyer, the form he's in, you can't exactly blame him for thinking I might take charge here.
Things you are entitled to when you've scored 6 goals already in the season. It's just an absolute goal-scoring machine. Harry Sawyer.
Well, going into the game, Oscar, he was going at about, I think, a goal every 135 minutes. I reckon it's definitely ticked down a bit on the basis of this game, but these are very solid numbers. Bernardo. Will keep it in his control. Oh, speaking of control, Adrian Zara very nearly lost his footing. Well, he did, but managed to regain ground in time to win the ball back for the Burgers.
I mean, I imagine Sawyer's still carrying a ton-plus average, but nonetheless, he's bringing it right down. And just indicative of how regularly he's scoring for South early in the season.
Good to hear the Clarendon corner on the effects mic, enjoying things early doors. And they have every reason to be if you were late to join us. They led after 94 seconds next to Harrison Sawyer, although trouble here potentially. Josh Pinn trying to spring the break for the Burgers. It's Josh Pinn. Well, it's a shot, so again, it's progress for Heidelberg, but it's into the breadbasket of Javi Lopez, who has to do a fair bit better than that to get his beating.
Well, look, I think a huge credit has to go to Heidelberg for the way they've responded after that first 10 minutes. The last 10, it's been a much more even contest, and they're threatening the South Melbourne goal for the first time in the game. And it's not easy to do when you start the game so on the back foot as the Burgers did. South, though, will be looking to get themselves back on top in the game. Imagine up with the Clarendon corner in full voice. Rewarding the team for their electric start in this Greek derby. This is Sawyer. Didn't quite make the right kind of contact with that one, and that'll allow Heidelberg to regain possession much higher up the pitch than we saw them in the first 10 minutes, and that's obviously been the key to their revival in this game. Shepherd there was in a tight space and couldn't quite work his way around an opponent or two. Coming into tonight, we knew it was a big test for the Burgers and John Anastasiadis, and to really see how far he has taken this team in such a short period of time, coming up against, in many ways, the benchmark in this competition. I think we're seeing the challenge of trying to play through South. It's been such a feature of how Heidelberg have played to start the season. Archibald goes high and long, but has a little bit too much on it, so Yaron Sosa will claim, and again with the quick release.
I wonder what is running through the mind of John Anastasiadis right now. It's obviously no stranger to Greek derbies, no stranger to the Lakeside. Hasn't been involved in this particular fixture at this venue since March 2007, or 4th of March. It was nearly exactly 17 years since that. Well, I hope we get the same scoreline, because it was a 3-3 draw that day. And Josh Pinn winds up from range. What a screamer! What a way for the Burgers to get back in the game. Well, South Melbourne, for all the positivity of their early start, find themselves back to level pegging thanks to a bullet from the Burgers. What a hit that was.
Something special from Josh Pinn, coming absolutely out of nowhere. No one saw it coming until it was just about in the back of the net.
Oh. Just having
Goal for Heidelberg United. The score
look at
is
that one on the
Heidelberg
replay,
United 1,
Oscar.
South Melbourne 1.
I'm reminded of what we were just saying a couple of minutes earlier when Josh Pinn had a fairly tame effort towards Javi Lopez. You have to be a lot better than that to beat him, and indeed that was. That was a cracking strike from the Queenslander, who is really enjoying this new position that John Anastasiadis has popped him into. He's the line leader in place of Kane Shepherd, who's now, I guess, the second striker.
Yeah, I mean, a third goal of the season already. Like he's really taken to it like a duck to water, and allows Kane Shepherd to have that greater involvement deeper in the build-up play, which I think is a real strength of Shepherd's. It's made Heidelberg a more formidable unit. We see Shepherd's involvement right there as Jamal Ali steps out of his defensive line to progress the ball. This is Idara, who works his way through before releasing Yokokawa. Still Asahi Yokokawa plays the ball through towards Pinn, but the offside flag denies the man leading the line for Heidelberg. And how quickly a game of football can turn, Lockie. All of a sudden it's the Burgers with all the momentum. And South Melbourne, who perhaps counting themselves a little bit lucky not to be behind.
Well, it's exactly why that goal from Josh Pinn is so important, because with all due respect, Heidelberg have been nowhere. They were nowhere in the opening 23 minutes of this game, and I mean, that is a game-breaking goal in every sense. It's, you know, the level of, I guess, effort, skill required to make that happen, but yeah, I mean, they don't say it for nothing, Oscar. Goals, they really do change games.
Heidelberg now with almost everyone in the team in the South Melbourne half of the ground. Nice touch from Olsen, attempting to combine with Narcissus, just slightly ahead of the wide man. And Jamal Ali, who's been busy in the first 25 minutes of this game, once again stepping in to put the ball out of play. Nicola launches it towards Sawyer, whose header back almost finds Bernardo, but the experience and guile of Adrian Zara gets the ball clear, and that was a pretty firm coming together, which will result in another South Melbourne set piece. This time on the deck for South. So it looks like Mario Barcia going to stand over and potentially deliver. Once again, you see the likes of Sawyer and Jankovic up and ready to contribute. Long ball does find the centre half from Jankovic, but Heidelberg, they've been defending strongly those set pieces. And the throw does go the Burgers' way, Jamal Ali. Well, a much more even contest we have on our hands at the moment. Perhaps more what we were hoping and expecting to see coming into tonight. Attempt to play through Idara. Doesn't pan out this time. Now South looking to hit in transition, but Ben Collins gets there to help out. A moment of panic for Yaron Souza. The result is a goal kick, but just a moment, a heart and mouth moment for Heidelberg.
Well, at the risk of repeating ourselves, Oscar, the whole goal that Heidelberg needed, goals that changed games, this has just been the last 5-10 minutes since that equalizer have been seriously gripping football. I'm almost not sure who the happier of the two sides are after nearly 30 minutes played, because, you know, South have had probably the better of the chances, the better of the ball, and yet for much of their dominance of the opening 20, they're level, and Heidelberg are back to their energetic best.
It's really been a gradual process for John Anastasiadis' side to work their way back into this contest. First getting themselves out of their shell and now gradually building into a more threatening attacking force. It's so difficult to do that mid-game, Lockie.
It is. They really, you know, some teams are sort of can be quite slow, laborious. Other teams, high octane, high tempo. Heidelberg really, they crescendo very nicely. They build. And they're trying to build something here. They'll get a free kick through the industry of Josh Pinn, who is, oh, really, it's like a one-man mosquito fleet up top. Just harassing and haranguing South Melbourne defenders in every direction.
You can imagine, like, he'd just be a nightmare to defend Josh Pinn. The pace that he has and the power as well. He can run super fast in a straight line, but also change direction really effectively.
And the other thing that's been noticeable about this game so far is, he's not the tallest player, but he contests in the air quite well. And he's using his back to goal pretty effectively. And the upshot of it all is that Kane Shepherd, who does not mind a goal against South Melbourne, has a free kick in a testing position, but for a player like Kane Shepherd, he's definitely got this in the locker.
Referee Astro Sakalis making sure all is in good order with the wall. Will now allow Shepherd his chance to, you'd imagine, go direct. And Shepherd, who strikes it okay. Second attempt again, and straight into the wall, and now South will look to hit quickly on the counter. Sawyer plays it to Brennan. Andy Brennan has pace to burn. Sawyer's making his way inside. The cross had a little bit too much on it. Aaron Souza didn't take it cleanly, but did enough to come away with the ball. Shows you just another element of the South Melbourne attack. Quickly they can turn the tables. Pinn finding a somewhat lone battle up the top on that case, having to wait for his teammates to get themselves up the field and provide some support. Hajic looks to spread it to Zara, but lost his footing. The ball rolls out for a South Melbourne throw. And the game's as finely poised as it is. Certainly not the kind of situations in which you want to be giving away possession so cheaply.
Even that poor cross from Noel Bernardo into the body of Yaron Souza before is a good indicator into how this game is going, because every South fan was up and they might be here again. Bernardo just couldn't clip it through to Max Mikola. Would have had a real good look at the goal of Yaron Souza. Has a real good look at the referee Astro Sakalis after he goes down under the challenge of Jamal Ali, who, if I'm not mistaken, is walking the tightrope of a yellow card. Well, both of those players are, in fact.
Jamal Ali's been kept very busy.
I mean, when is Jamal Ali not busy?
It's true.
It's usually, so far this season, been in more of an attacking sense, but he's had plenty of defending to do. Mikola, a lovely in-swinger, and the contact did arrive through Ross Archibald, but the accuracy was found wanting at the crucial moment. It's just a sense of expectation all of a sudden with every attacking drive. I think It's a good indicator that we've got a real game on our hands here at the moment. Jamal Ali to Marzis, who's swapped flanks, looking to poke it through for Olsen, but Jankovic well positioned. That was clever from Collins, just releasing Aiden Fedajic, who, by my count, is the only Heidelberg player out there to formally worn the blue of South Melbourne. Albeit not in a way that would make anyone turn your nose up that much at crossing the divide. Only 5 appearances back in 2018.
Frankly, Lucky, I don't know many people who, even if they did have a problem with AJ Fedajic, would say it to his face. I certainly wouldn't.
That's a very good point. I thought you were making some commentary about the intensity or strength of the rivalry, but no, just the intensity and strength of Aiden Fedajic, which is a point well made. Garcia trying to make things happen for South Melbourne, the Argentine. The challenge from Zara. Position collected by Nicholas Olsen, who now he is on the far side. Burgers fans who have been watching the team for year on year know that there is a redhead winger on the far side, but it is not Sean Ellis, it's Nicholas Olsen. And there's some work to do here for Astro Sakalis. A yellow card for Noel Bernardo, Oscar.
Yeah, just catching, I think it was Mo Idara a bit late there, Bernardo. And referee Astro Sakalis, who's not been shy showing the yellow cards early in this game, really, I think, looking to set the tone and keep a lid on things, because we know that these kinds of matches can quite readily boil over. Fortunately for Heidelberg, it does look as if Mo Idara will be okay and nothing too serious keeping him down.
And thank God, because although he had a difficult start to the game, Mohamed Idara, I think one of the big parts behind how quickly Heidelberg have been able to make things work under John Anastasiadis is not just Mohamed Idara, but the fact that a lot of their mid-season signings last year are now sort of coming into bloom, and Idara is one of them. He's been robbed of the ball that time, though. Yeah, signed out of Mill Park in State League 2. Of course, he's played at far higher divisions than that. The former St. Pauli youth played in the Belgian Pro League. How does someone from the Belgian Pro League end up playing for Mill Park, Oscar? That's what I want to know.
It's probably a question that could be directed towards the NPL clubs as much as anything. I mean, we knew what he had. We knew what he was possessing, and just to allow him to slip through the cracks like that, and you can see he's more than comfortable at this level in these kinds of games. You just have a moment of pause. There's some injury concern in the middle of the park.
Yeah, but he's started every game since signing from Mill Park. There are not many teams not many players rather, that come up from State League 2 and are walk-up first 11 starters 90 minutes every game since signing under 2 coaches. You've got to be a pretty talented player to do that, and the Senegalese midfielder certainly is that.
You wouldn't describe it as a well-trodden path, that from Mill Park to Heidelberg, would you, Lucky?
From Moosgron to Mill Park. Said no one ever. Looks as though Andy Brennan is back onto his feet here at Lakeside. Esteban Quintas will be hoping that all is well and he's right to continue. It is a strong first up 11 for South, but the bench options are of something of a youthful complexion. Likes of Cooper Halfpenny, Zach Spiteri, Lucas Inglese, Bol Tong, who's on the bench for the first time this season, and of course Emil Payos, really the standout name.
Probably something that doesn't get talked about a lot, the way that South Melbourne, particularly this season, have been bringing through a lot of young players. I mean, we were talking about Morgan Evans before as well. It's been an effective conveyor belt which has sustained Esteban Quintas's team. South once again playing a patient game from the back. Federhajic and Bernardo do battle once more. It's the Heidelberg man who wins out on this occasion. Marzis started the game on the left-hand side, now on the right. It's a clever back heel from Yokokawa, but couldn't quite find his teammate with the return ball. The back pass from Max Mikula has a little bit too much juice on it for Marko Jankovic, and that will allow the Burgers a corner opportunity. Edge towards the final 5 minutes of the half.
To the Burgers having the tank from the flag. It's a high looping corner, allowed to bounce in the box by the South Melbourne defence. Well, I was going to say to no trouble. It depends, I guess, how much you consider a second successive corner to be trouble. For their set-piece strength, South Melbourne, ironically, they can be sometimes caught out, or were last season, in actually defending them. As it swung into the near post, commandingly away that time, though. Not that they conceded many goals last season, but as a percentage, quite a few did come from corners, free kicks. Collins. Patient play for Idara. The Burgers hoping to build slowly but surely once more. Olsen against Lampard. He's grown into the game, has Nicholas Olsen, but that cross, not his best. Not his best at all.
Definitely a player that I think Johnny A will want to see on the ball a little bit more often in the second half. Olsen, he's been such an integral part of Heidelberg's attacking play in the early phases of the season, and it took a while for him to get on the ball regularly in this game tonight.
Interesting as well that having started on the right, moved across to the left, Johnny A has now gone for the switchback of his wingers. Marzis over to the left flank again. Olsen returning to the right channel. Has this first half got anything more to give? You can't ask for much more. It's been a very good opening half in the Greek derby. Harrison Sawyer's early opener cancelled out by a pile driver from Josh Pinn. Lovely turn in midfield, one way then the other by Noel Bernarda. He really adds a fascinating foil to the towering presence of Harrison Sawyer, the man who's come across from Green Gully. It scored against the Burgers in Gully green and white last season in round 25. It was a very nice goal as well. Pass though from Jordan Lampard, one of the men who joined him across from Green Gully. Not his best.
It's been fascinating to observe, Lockie, just the way that the South press is more or less dissipated in this game. Heidelberg have done enough to ward off South Melbourne into believing that they're not quite getting the results that they would be after. Bernarda's ball
Kept alive by Bernarda. Mikola strikes low and hard across the turf, but Souza able to collect. And Heidelberg move things the other way. That's asking a fair bit of Nicholas Olsen. I know he looks like Sean Ellis from the back, but even the Flamehead Scott in his prime, I don't think would have caught on to that one. Of course, he hasn't gone anywhere, Sean Ellis. He's on the bench, and you do wonder you know, as by far on either bench the most experienced head, whether his presence could loom large in this fixture. Player down in the centre circle, it's Harrison Sawyer. And South want to take the free kick quickly, but Astro Sakalis making what is sometimes frustrating as a player, but a fair point. That is not where the foul occurred.
That probably also did South a favour. I mean, I think their odds are much better with Sawyer up on his feet and in and around the box than when they were going to go without him.
Well, and it's a hard case to make when the player who was fouled is still down where they were fouled as well. Always adds an interesting element. Definitely harder to press the case, but you can't fault Max Mikula for trying. Barcia clips it into the box. Contested header falls into the lap of Mohamed Aidara. And Josh Pinn is just motoring his way forward. His run goes unrewarded. As things stand though, Oscar, it's hard to see where this Greek derby goes in the second half.
I think we're in for a cracker of a second half, Lucky. Just the way that both teams have settled into their respective game styles.
Could South Melbourne flip the script? Flicked away, only as far as Lampard, who hooks it into the box. And the header from Bernarda just diverted wide of the target. Oh, that would have been a celebration for the ages had Noel Bernarda managed to nod that one into the back of the net. He's a passionate character at the best of times, but if he had have given South the go-ahead goal right before the halftime interval, I know it's only first 45. We could have been in shirt-off territory.
Yeah, I mean, it happened so fast. The reactions from Bernardo were just excellent, and whilst we're not at the best angle to see, it looked like he skimmed the outside of the post with the effort. South now looking to continue their late surge in the first half. Bernardo using the overlapping run from Lampard. It's a good curling cross. Nice skill on display from Andy Brennan. And perhaps we're in for a rounding out of the half, which finishes much like it started, with South Melbourne putting their foot on the gas. Heidelberg at this point, you'd imagine, would be content to get to the break at 1-1. Say that if you offered John Anastasiadis that scoreline before the game, he'd probably be happy with 1-1 at the break.
Well, if you offered it to him after 10 minutes, I reckon you'd bitten your hand off.
Nicola once more. Collins using his body wisely and protecting the ball over the line, so Yaron Souza will take his time with this goal kick as we continue to tick towards the half-time break. Yokokawa was the recipient of the ball from the goalkeeper. And Wilson and Ali trying to be a little bit too clever. This ball doesn't quite find its way through to Sawyer, but Nicola's there mopping up. And Dara stepping across. And Olsen will retreat to his defence. Is there perhaps one more twist in this half as we see Olsen fouled by Marko Jankovic. And to bring an end to that attack really before it started.
Taken quickly by the Burgers. I do wonder how many seconds of first half stoppage. There was a check of the watch there from Astro Sakalis. You wonder how many extra seconds he'll allow. Burgers not exactly in a hurry.
I think they've had enough, Heidelberg.
Well, South not exactly in a rush to take the ball off them. Are they just going to keep knocking it between the central defenders until the half ends? No, is the answer. Shepherd lays it down for Adrian Zara, and now Marzis. Shepherd on the left-hand side now. Aidara. Oh, fancy feet. Lovely stuff from Mohamed Aidara. Returns the favour to Shepherd. Aidara clips it into the box. Olsen just scuffed his shot, but even then, it was still a very solid chance, not far wide for the Burgers.
It was like they lulled South into a false sense of security the way that they were knocking the ball around. Out the back, South thought Heidelberg had had enough. I think just about everyone watching had that thought as well.
I believe you tried to say that the Heidelberg wanted half-time.
It was the plan all along, Lockie.
It was the old bait and switch. And that chance brings us to the end of what's been a very entertaining first 45 in Greek Derby 118. And it started, well, in a flash, in a flurry, in a Harrison Sawyer goal after all of, I think, about 90 seconds here at Lakeside Stadium. And it seemed from there that South Melbourne would continue to exert their influence, their dominance on the game, and maybe add more to the tally. But Heidelberg held firm before, well, a game breaker, a net buster from Josh Pinn, who rifled the ball from all of 25 yards past Javi Lopez and turned the game on its head. And from there, it's been end-to-end, it's been even pickings, and it sets up Oscar Rutherford a very entertaining second half at Lakeside.
Well, we thought after 10 minutes that this was going to be a one-sided shellacking dished out by South Melbourne, but the way that Heidelberg have fought their way back into this game made it a thoroughly entertaining first 45, and as excited as we were before the game, I think we're just as excited going into the second half because of the way that half played out. Contrasting styles, contrasting strengths of these teams, but at the break, there's nothing to split them.
Or visit smfc.com.au. Spectators must never use violence in any form towards another person, including
1-1 the score at the halftime break between South Melbourne and Heidelberg United here at Lakeside. Harry Sawyer opening the scoring before Josh Pinn unleashed a rocket to pull Heidelberg back level in that first half. So everything's still to play for in the second 45. The first Greek derby of 2024. And as we see, play preparing to get back underway. Andy Brennan standing over the ball with Astro Sakalis waiting to get us back underway. And indeed we are back for the second half. An excellent first 45 minutes of football in which South Melbourne came absolutely flying out of the blocks. Heidelberg slowly wrestled their way back into the game. Perhaps they're looking to strike early in the second half through the goal scorer Pinn. This cross is well blocked. Second time of asking caused a little bit more trouble. There's another slip, that time from Yokokawa. And this time it's the Burgers looking to apply some early pressure in this half of football. Edwin Zara, the Burgers veteran, plays it inside towards Olsen. Now Shepherd towards Yokokawa, but Lampard comes away with the ball. Only as far as Jamal Ali, who had a perhaps even more busier than average first half. Dara coming away with the ball too, and in the end it's a South Melbourne throw, which is as good a time as any is to bring back into the game Lockie Flanagan. A thoroughly enjoyable first 45. Are you anticipating to see any changes perhaps from coaches in style or approach?
Well, I'm definitely anticipating changes for absolute certain. Whether they be personnel, whether it be on the scoreboard, whether it be a combination of both, it's all very possible. I feel like a lot is in play after 45 minutes played at Lakeside Stadium. I just get the feeling, if history is any indicator, that we will get goals, we will have a winner. I don't want to jinx it, but there's not been a draw in this fixture since 2015. It's been nearly a decade since a round 6 1-all draw at the Village. And I think a real test for both sides in a different way. Heidelberg to prove that this Johnny A project is a legit title contender. It's one of the best sides in the comp for the past few seasons. But for South Melbourne, who will be smarting from, still I think, from 3 straight defeats to Heidelberg in the Greek derby.
Here's the thing, like, I don't want to jump the gun, but I think you could mount the argument that that first half performance alone from Heidelberg has validated their status as a real contender in this competition. The way that they more than matched it with South from the 10-minute mark onward in the first half of football tells you that they're not just flat-track bullies. We see Mo Aidara looking to continue the strong start for his team in the second 45. Collins playing it through to Yokokawa. Nice bit of combination with Pinn. And it looks as if Olsen just drifted offside. Not for the first time a Burgers winger has been caught going a little bit early. You can be sure that that'll be frustrating for Johnny A on the touchline for Heidelberg. Consider how difficult it is to create chances against South Melbourne. Just be giving up opportunities simply as that. Now just Van Quintas's team's time to try and play through a bit of a press, which they do so effectively. Unfortunately for the home team, it's the Burgers who've been awarded the throw, so they'll be able to continue their early territorial dominance.
Back to Yaron Souza. Great to see him back in NPL Victoria, here in Sousa, the league where he made his debut as a 17-year-old for Pascoe Vale back in 2014. He's been well travelled since then. Malta, Gosford, the Air League Men's Championship with the Mariners. Turkey as well. A real quality keeper, and that's a real quality challenge from Jordan Lampard.
I like the way you nestled Gosford in between Malta and Turkey in that description, Lockie. It makes it sound much more dramatic than perhaps it was.
Well, I mean, Central Coast Stadium is it's pretty pleasing on the eye. The only place who can compete with its palm trees is Lakeside Stadium, where there's plenty. And, well, Javi Lopez went on a bit of an adventure there, but it's paid off for South. Morgan Evans in advance. Plenty of numbers ahead. Picked out none of them. Went laterally for Archibald, and would probably have done differently had he been allowed to have his time again. Shepherd scored in 3 straight great derbies as Kane Shepherd. Or rather, scored in both last year. Has 3 in 4 games. Back-to-back goals at Lakeside. Doesn't have a goal to his name yet this season, but he's been doing a lot of everything else where the creating and goal scoring is concerned. The joint gold medalist back in 2022. A booming switch from Mikola to Brennan, who tried his best to keep it alive and did so, but not to the benefit of any South Melbourne teammates. Tested well by Shepherd, but he wanted Josh Pinn just sort of to be there to crumb the ball from the head of it. You could see him throw his arms up in frustration that Pinn just wasn't quite in the right place at the right time. And you can understand it as well, because if Josh Pinn gets isolated against one of those defenders latching onto that flicked-on header, the way he's been playing this season, he's a good chance of making something happen.
Kane Shepherd, of course, playing in that deeper role, which inevitably means that he won't be scoring the same number of goals. Well, I say inevitably, it makes it quite difficult for him to score the number of goals that he did back in 2022 when he was gold medal winner. Here he is on the ball once more, Shepherd, using his captain Zara. Shepherd has Barcia for company. So again, a little show of frustration for Kane Shepherd. South Melbourne do not make it easy for you, but Idara's found a little bit of space into which he's run. The pass couldn't find its way out to Nick Olsen. Numbers, though, converge for the Burgers to win the ball back. Now Yokokawa. Inside towards Pinn. Back to Zara now. Idara once more looking to combine with Shepherd, who finds Marzis in a little bit of space. Thought about the shot the first time. Maybe he will this time. Leo Marzis. Curling effort from a long way out. Never quite looked likely. Didn't quite have his balance as he struck the ball.
Just never curled back towards goal, unfortunately, for Leo Marzis. But the play in the lead up to it was pretty pleasing from Heidelberg United. I want to draw your attention to really the thing that started it all. That sort of counter press from the Burgers in their own front third to win back possession so quickly after losing it. It was one of the things that John Anastasiadis pointed out about the 3-0 win last week against Gully, which, albeit with 10, it was with 10, I should say. I love the way they wanted to win the ball back quickly after losing it, and they certainly did so there, even if the chance that it led to was a bit ho-hum. And the expectation rises from the Clarendon corner as Max Mikola sizes up a long throw to create some chaos. Sawyer Off his back and through the pack. And away by the Burgers to Idara, who certainly grown into the game. He couldn't get the ball in play on that occasion. Linesman Jordan English, better position than we were in the commentary area.
Just as we see Mo Idara on the ball, like you talk about the counter-pressing of Heidelberg, and Idara is a huge part of that, how quickly he wins the ball back in the middle of the park. That's an area where there's some vulnerability for Heidelberg if they give the ball away in those central positions, and Idara is just an expert in making sure that he recovers the ball so that he protects his backline.
Lovely play between Shepherd and Adrian Zara, two of the Burgers' experienced heads. And now Yokokawa, double deflection, and South able to whisk it away. It's back at the feet of, guess who? Mohamed Idara. And here, through the effects mic, Adrian Zara just directing traffic ahead of him, the Heidelberg captain. As Yokokawa finds a nice pocket of space and feeds Leo Marzis. Back onto the right, Leo Marzis returns the favour to Yokokawa. A strong challenge in the middle from Mario Barcia. Bernarda, try as he might, won't latch on to that ball. South Melbourne subs have been sent to warm up, and there are a pair of them, I believe, Oscar, stripped off and waiting to come on for Heidelberg United. Looks as though Sean Ellis is one. I'll wait to give you confirmation of the other very shortly. I wonder if it might be Owen Ashton, potentially. One of Heidelberg's super subs. Coming on alongside their super Scotsman.
I must confess, I find it a little bit surprising that it's Johnny A, the one who's feeling more of the need to make a change, because I think his team started the second half quite well. They've been controlling the general play, and South Melbourne haven't really been able to do anything with the ball. But perhaps Johnny A knows his players better than we do, and he's sensing that they could perhaps build on that early momentum as we see a risky back pass. And the attempt to get it out through Shepherd is cut off by Archibald. Idara once again using Shepherd and Jamal Ali, who's fouled that time by Bernarda. Don't blame Jamal Ali for being a little bit sore and staying down a bit longer, considering how much he's been involved in the physicality. It's Harry Sawyer taking a hot shot when the game wasn't live, and Adrian Zara's taken exception to it. Really from nowhere, Lockie, we've got a bit of a boil over going on.
Oh, here we go. This is the Greek derby we were promised.
Just all starting from Harry Sawyer just firing a shot from a long way out when the ball was dead. So now referee Astro Sakalis looks to have gotten things back under control, which will, I think, allow Heidelberg to make those substitutions, which we see ready and waiting.
He's still going at it, Adrian Zara and Harrison Sawyer. Look, he's no stranger to a Greek derby, Adrian Zara. He's an experienced head. Maybe just go into the book. So that'll be something that he'll have to manage. But is that maybe taking one for the team? You know, do we need to get in ahead of South Melbourne, unsettle them? I mean, they are a dominant force here at Lakeside. They've only lost one of their last 30 here, and that was to the Burgers. Is it just, I don't know, trying to find a little gap, unsettle this team that usually look pretty comfortable?
I think you've attributed a little bit too much reason and logic and planning.
My effects mic is strong, but it's not strong enough to pick up what was said. It's
didn't exactly seem like a deeply considered decision from Adrian Zara to go in and arc up, if you will, to Harry Sawyer. But that's part of what he brings to the team.
Maybe that's just part of the genius of and the experience of Adrian Zara.
No, you're right. We shouldn't underestimate Adrian Zara, or I shouldn't.
No. It's a bit of a special night for him, actually. Making his 189th NPL Victoria appearance, jumping into equals 6 now on the all-time list alongside Marcus Schroen and Liam Boland. And at the same time, goes up the pecking order in terms of NPL appearances for the Burgers. Equal 5th alongside Les Dumbalis, one of the great Heidelberg names. As we get to see those double substitutions, or one double substitution, it's not 2 double substitutions, come to fruition. And it's Kane Shepherd replaced by Owen Ashton. Leo Marzis coming off in place of Sean Ellis. What do you make of it?
Decent names to be pulling off the bench. You mentioned Owen Ashton, often asked to play this role and really energising his team when he gets onto the pitch. And, well, don't know what needs to be said about Sean Ellis, who has a well-established reputation in this league and for Heidelberg.
On 19, Sean Ellis, and number 6, Anthony Lesiotis, replacing number 14, Kane Shepherd, and number 7, Leo Marzis.
It's been a hard toil for Kane Shepherd in that 10 role, or somewhat 10 role that he's been playing. We saw his frustration bubbling up throughout the second half.
Well, just issue a slight correction to those substitutions. I've been caught out by the faint gap between a 6 and an 8. It's actually Anthony Lesiotis who comes on for his first appearance of the season rather than Owen Ashton.
He's led us down a troubled path, Lockie. Let's see if we can get ourselves back on course as Max Mikkola launches the throw into the box. Lampard's on the receiving end, but the referee's kicked out a foul. Well, which will allow Heidelberg to restart the play with the ball in their possession, deep in their own half.
I'm not sure if it's just me, Oscar, but I feel like one thing Heidelberg have done particularly well in the game is they've really, those long throws is actually something they've neutered quite well. I don't know whether it's by fortune or design, but I mean the contrast, I'll hold that thought for a moment as Brennan tries to weave through the Burgers defence. The contrast to the opening game of the season against Knights couldn't be more stark. They had no answer to the aerial barrage, whereas Heidelberg have been able to deal with it fairly comfortably. Yokokawa, pin, knocks it down for the substitute Lesiotis, and now Olsen trying to get the beating of his marker. Can't do so, but the spillage breaks kindly for Mohamed Aidara.
I think, Lockie, not just the long throws, but the set pieces generally. I mean, outside of that first 10 minutes when South looked like they were going to score every time they entered the box, Heidelberg have looked quite comfortable and defended them really well. See the bit of a risky ball played back by Adrian Zara to his goalkeeper. Difficult for Sousa to deal with, and now Bernardo wins back possession high up the pitch. The ball sent in, and the header from Max Mikkola off the crossbar. It came from Bernardo winning the ball back high up the pitch. And Max Mikkola very nearly returning South Melbourne to the lead with that header.
How close we were to nearly commentators cursing our way into a second for South Melbourne. Because yes, they have been mostly comfortable in defence, Heidelberg, but one thing that's really been impressive about South Melbourne in recent seasons, but particularly to start the 2024 campaign, is they turn the screw very quickly, and the minute Bernardo picked up possession, picked off the loose ball from Yaron Sousa, blue shirts were moving at mass and at speed. And Max Mikkola really scored himself a rare header. And maybe that sparks South into life. Brennan. Oh, the ball was just overcooked. It was the right idea. Sawyer was relatively unmarked at the back post, but Lampard has worked his socks off to keep it alive, but his effort only matched by the defensive nous of Sean Ellis, I think, maybe doing his defensive work. Or was it Adrian Zara? Or was it Anthony Lesiotis? I'm just guessing at this point. It was Anthony Lesiotis is the answer.
You wonder if this was the plan all along from Andy Brennan. Just get the ball to the other side of the pitch so Max Mikkola can deliver another long throw. So his fist gets there in time. Brennan's there on the follow-up. He struck it decently. He just pulled it a little bit too far. Just in this last few minutes, South Melbourne have gone up a gear, starting to reapply some pressure onto Heidelberg. And so they're not even interested in entertaining the press that South Melbourne had ready to go.
I guess the only issue with trying, if you are Yaron Souza, to just go long to play around the press is that they've now, in Kane Shepherd, lost their foremost sort of, I guess, aerial threat, the option that you'd look to send those long goal kicks towards. I did say that Josh Pinn was good at contesting in the air in the first half, but it's always nice to have an extra target.
Brennan hassling Adrian Zara. There was some hesitation there from the assistant as to which way the flag would be raised, but it's Heidelberg's favour, which I think is unanimously an agreeable decision based on the player reactions, or lack thereof. So now the challenge laid before Heidelberg. What do they have in response to South's upping of the intensity? The work out there is Pin and Yokokawa working in a really tight space. This is Jankovic, who loses out for a moment to Yokokawa, but foul called, Lockie, and South Melbourne, I think, maybe a little bit fortunate to get away with that one. I think Yokokawa's gone into the book for his reaction. Just, I think the size difference between the players made it look like Marko Jankovic went down a little bit soft. But ever the experienced defender, knew exactly what he was doing once he found himself in trouble.
Well, if ever you wanted to know in very distinct terms the kind of split of where both sets of fans sit, you only had to look at the background there at Lakeside, because the right-hand side of your screen, all sitting down unmoved, that's clearly the South Melbourne end. And the left-hand side of the screen, where everyone was pretty much up on their feet protesting
number 16,
the decision.
Replacing number
That's
7,
the Heidelberg half.
Well, lucky we will now get to have another look at Emil Payos, who's been brought on for the man who replaced him in the 11 tonight, Andy Brennan. Which is an interesting move, because they're not the same type of player, Andy Brennan and Emil Payos. Payos much more of a technical player who wants the ball at his feet.
Well, he did say, speaking to South Melbourne TV, in that start, his first start, I think, for South against Manningham last week, that yes, he did come on in midfield, or started midfield, but he ended up playing 3 different positions, of which I think right wing was one. So, I don't know, maybe that was the position in which Esteban liked him the most. Mikola once more. Sawyer contests. It's a scramble in the middle, and in the end, it's a free kick, and it's in danger of kicking off again here. Sawyer's being hauled away by Aiden Fedahajic. Yaron Souza is down on the turf, slapping at the grass. And Astros Sakalis will have to come across to his linesman in Jordan English to get a clearer picture of the situation. It was hard to make heads or tails of it from this angle. There was a collapse, a convergence of bodies. I do wonder if maybe the Heidelberg players just took exception to what they perceived to be a kick out, perhaps, from Harrison Sawyer when he was on the deck.
Well, the other factor, just looking at the replay, Lucky, I think Yaron Souza may have contributed perhaps to Marko Jankovic hitting the deck. When he was walking past, Souza were already on the ground, and Jankovic goes down as well, which perhaps contributed to the inflammation.
Well, in the end, the referees have had their review, and everyone will escape without punishment. It's a bit of derby hijinks. South are definitely trying to up the ante with this press at the moment. It's Mikola. Queenslander well marshalled. And legally marshalled in the eyes of Astro Sakalis, even though he's come off second best as Max Mikola.
Well, look, you can really feel this derby. It's just starting to get a little bit more tense, a little bit more conflict between the two teams, and the crowd getting a little bit more involved. Really feel like we're building to something as we head into the last 20 minutes of regulation.
It feels like the result as well, or what's at stake, is becoming real. I mean, it's quite rare that you get a game that does actually feel as high stakes as this one 5 rounds into a season. And another example of it here. A bust up on the halfway line, a yellow card this time for, I believe, Marko Jankovic. There were, I think, a few receiving cautions in that passage. There's been yellow cards are plenty in this game. This is Idara who picked up the yellow card for the Burgers. Stick with my initial presumption of Jankovic, unless you want to offer something to the contrary, Oscar.
No, I think it was Idara, to be honest with you, Lockie. I think that he just kicked the ball away on his way out, having given away the foul, and that might have prompted the yellow.
I'm sure Sakalis has earned his referee's money tonight. He's had a lot of yellow cards to dish out. As we get into the final 20, you can certainly feel the stakes of this game weighing heavily. Is that a sprinkler on the far side? What has just happened? Why do I feel like we're about to end up on a memes page, Oscar? There's a sprinkler that has been set off on the pitch.
Effectively redirected by one of the staff.
They do tend to move though, so it's only a temporary solution. And credit to the Clarendon corner who were chanting the circus music seconds before. And play continues. Mikola sends it into the box, punched away, flicked back in, flicked across by Jankovic. And I don't know who the person is on the touchline who is keeping the sprinkler at bay, but they are doing a damn good job right now.
You talk about a long 20 minutes. He's going to be exhausted by the end of the game, Lockie.
I mean, there's surely no hand can withstand that water force for 20 minutes. Now it's off.
It's been relieved.
Well, thank goodness for that. Or normalcy, or at least as normal as you can get in a derby as tight and tense as this one can resume. South Melbourne make another substitution. Onto the field comes Cooper Halfpenny,
number 21, Ross
in place of Ross Archibald, who's been anchoring the midfield.
Cooper Halfpenny.
Oscar, of course, you were at Petty's Reserve last week when Cooper Halfpenny was a second half substitute. What did you make of him? What can South fans expect of his cameo here?
Well, when he came onto the game last week, Lockie, it was more or less the result was no longer in doubt. So it wasn't quite the situation where he gets to shine, I don't think. Much more likely to see that tonight with the game very much still in the balance. Perhaps he can really make a name for himself with a memorable substitute appearance. Another player not exactly lacking in the height department, Cooper Halfpenny. Nicholas sends us forward. Once again, the flick on header. Just a moment of panic for Heidelberg. heading it towards the touchline. Seems as if Sosa did enough to keep the ball in play. Perhaps not in the end. He's tripped on his way out as well, the Heidelberg goalkeeper.
Well, if nothing else, we're going to get some entertainment value out of Sosa this season. He's been in the thick of all the argy-bargy action that's been there to be had in Greek Derby 118 in the second half. He's been at the forefront of a great deal of it. I think we're going to get some good goalkeeping as well, though, you'd imagine. And he's going to get a test here as South Melbourne load up an in-swinger. Jankovic was the target. Glanced away and sent back in by Mikola. It's side netting. I don't know whether it took a touch on the way through or if Max Mikola was just simply hitting and hoping for the best, but looked more of a threat to the goal of John Anastasiadis' side than perhaps it was from this angle.
Wasn't lacking in venom, the strike. He really put everything he had into it. But always tough in such a tight angle like that. This is Yokokawa. Time down the left-hand side, puts in a good cross. Sean Ellis almost getting onto the end of it. And a really firm coming together. As Jamal Ali comes out on top of. Is it back towards the substitute Ellis? And South Melbourne do get the ball away, at least temporarily. It's the first time in a while that we've seen Heidelberg cause some trouble for the South Melbourne defence. Perhaps having weathered the storm of the last 15 minutes or so when they've been largely struggling to get the ball out of their own half. Goes for a foul, not heeded by our referee, but Yokokawa looks to slide through Jamal Ali, who's found himself all the way up on the other touchline and winning a corner for the Burgers. I have to give Jamal Ali a lot of credit for his performance tonight. He'd be right up there with the best players on the pitch. Tasked with one of the most difficult assignments in Victorian football in Max Mikola.
And like Mohamed Aidara, another one of those mid-season signings who is really bearing fruit in the new year. Heidelberg timed their run perfectly here. Ellis in swinger, up goes Ben Collins at the back post. And South were caught sleeping at the back stick. Ben Collins nearly secured goals in back-to-back games.
Just didn't quite make the right contact, Ben Collins. Having a real moment to pop up and make an impact and a half. And that was agonisingly close for Johnny A's team.
Gee, that was some delivery from Sean Ellis as well.
But now it's South to get back into the ascendancy. This is Halfpenny. Tees it up for Mario Barcia. It was a clean strike, but it was straight down the throat of Sosa. And Heidelberg wasting no time looking to take the ball down the other end of the pitch. They'll play called back for a foul. That one on Mo Aidara. I wonder if perhaps there was an advantage going the way of Josh Pinn, but to be fair, the Heidelberg striker was largely on his lonesome with Aidara on the deck.
Just when you think the game has run out of life from open play, Oscar, it breathes life anew, and unfortunately that's also the case for the sprinklers here at Lakeside. We were able to contain one that went off in the corner, but
didn't need a lot of hands.
Four have now propped up on the right-hand side of your screen. That is a tricky task for the ball kids to have to deal with. If I were a ball kid, I'd probably be saying that sprinkler management is beyond my pay grade, but
I think those who grew up with siblings like me would have a major advantage in the art of redirecting water towards certain targets. On this occasion, it'll take a lot more human power than they have right at the moment available, South Melbourne.
It's the kind of water display that wouldn't be out of place a few, dozen metres up the road at the Melbourne Sports and Aquatic Centre, but here at Lakeside it's not particularly useful. And it will add stoppage time to this game. It'll add a little bit of slipperiness in the penalty area that South will be attacking.
Just for a moment there, we had a very artistic cross set up behind Yaron Souza's goal with the two streams intersecting. But it looks as if we've finally gotten on top of the mechanical problems at Lakeside. This is Anthony Lesiotis. Do the Burgers have one more gear in them as we head into the final 10 minutes of regulation? Ali couldn't keep the ball in play, just slipping right near the end.
I just wonder, Oscar, as we get into the final 10 minutes, sort of said it in passing before, but if Heidelberg have just timed their run in this game to perfection, because they had a good 15-20 minute period of sustaining a second wave of South pressure, and since they've managed to get by that, it's they who have sort of ticked up their own intensity, because it's a question of whether South Melbourne have got a third wind. Just feel like there's one more twist at least left in this game, which has still got plenty of time left in it, really, because we've had several minutes of stoppage. We've got stoppage time for the game, and we've got sprinkler stoppage time. Two very different things. Oh, and that ball is just overcooked in the direction of Yokokawa. Returns to his feet, a frustrated figure. It's a great pass for Payos. And another great pass for Sawyer. It falls to Mikola. A great block by the Burgers defence. Well, expectation rose at the feet of Max Mikola. He was thwarted by a great defensive stop from the Heidelberg backline. Olsen displays the palms at the referee.
And that was just about the cleanest chance creation we've had from open play since the second minute of the game, since Harry Sawyer opened the scoring. I thought for sure that the way that they got through and the cross played in towards Max Mikola, you thought for sure that South would be reclaiming the lead. Just brilliant desperation defending from Heidelberg, including that man Jamal Ali once more. Once again, it's Heidelberg looking to ask the question. Adrian Zara has run hard all night down this left-hand side. It's a good ball sent in. No one's able to make clean contact on it. Fell to Josh Pinn's feet, and by the time he saw it, he couldn't adjust his position and just rebounded off him. And again, Heidelberg coming agonisingly close to getting it right. I haven't seen Adrian Zara getting too high up the pitch that often tonight, reminding us, as if it were necessary, of the quality he possesses in the final third. Zara's pass there, cut out by Bernarda. The attempt to release Mikola doesn't get very far. Ellis retreating with Ali and being really hassled by Jordan Lampard. And South not able to come away with possession. Continuing to make it difficult for the Burgers to play their way through. In 6 minutes of regulation, Lockie, you feel like perhaps both teams are just setting themselves up for one final push. Dara doesn't get far. Ball slid through. The numbers are back in the right place for the Burgers. And Josh Pinn, the recipient of a foul, hasn't quite had the same involvement in the second half as he did the first Josh Pinn. And that will be the cue for John Anastasiadis to go to his bench the second time.
I wonder if perhaps John Anastasiadis made the same observation as you, that Josh Pinn is out of juice? No, I don't think he has. That's not a critique of your analysis, Oscar. I'm inclined to agree with you, but no, it's not he who will leave the field. It'll be Adrian Zara and Nicholas Olsen, whose days come to an end. It's been confirmation of their replacements for you shortly. Looks as though Dion Nicolaides is the man who's entered the field at the near side, and alongside the Energizer Bunny that is Owen Ashton on the left.
At least you got it right this time, Lockie.
Yeah, and I can now comfortably say that this is Sean Ellis on the wing for Heidelberg, looking to make something happen. A living legend will win a corner. He did score the sealer in their last win here at Lakeside last season. They've not had a draw in this game in nearly 10 years. 2015 season, the last time the points were shared. It was a 1-1 draw that time. Will history repeat itself, or do Heidelberg find the go-ahead? Another nicely shaped cross, but this time it's over all the willing targets. And despite all the promise off the boot from Sean Ellis, comes to nothing. Is it just me? Are there more seagulls than usual? I feel like we're in a deleted scene from Birdemic right now. It's unbelievable. Well, it must have been a good game because it's really drawn a crowd in the stands and in the air. Chested down by Yokokawa. Clever stuff that time from Anthony Lesiotis. That's earned Heidelberg a free kick.
Well, as we get towards the game's conclusion, Lockie, I wonder if, when looking for a summary or a reflection, if you can say that both of these teams, I think, have a lot of respect for the other, and they both seemed as if they've been playing, not trying to push themselves too far, a little bit within themselves, because they know how quickly they can be hurt if they do step out of line. We've seen a cautious aggression, I think, applied from both teams in the second half.
I do still wonder if it is leading to one last final push of caution into the win for John Anastasiadis' Burgers side. I'm reminded of the first half where it was right at the end of the opening 45. We thought that Heidelberg were just happy to play keep ball and see out the first half, but seconds later they caught South Melbourne asleep and very nearly found a second goal. Payos gets it through the legs. Evans to Sawyer, who's on a one-man mission. Mikula, the lone hand in support, and nearly picked out wonderfully. He's the number 22 for South. I don't want to say it's happened again, Oscar, but it has happened again. We are, what is that, the 6th sprinkler to have activated during this game?
Well,
and it's Emil Payos this time who is tasked with clearing the danger. And honestly, on the basis of that evidence, he should have been tasked with clearing the first 5 because he got rid of it very efficiently.
Much more agricultural approach. He wasn't wasting any time, Payos. He just went, we'll stamp it back into the ground.
I don't know if that's what they teach you at 6 years at the Melbourne City Youth Academy, but either way, it allows the game to continue as we start to cast our eye towards the 4th official, Terry Costandelos, to see how many more minutes we'll get of this game. like a 5 on the board. My eyes have deceived me a few times in this game, so I'll wait for him to hold it aloft. I have to get Oscar to read out the board for me. Bernarda. This is a clever little flick for Sawyer, but I don't think he quite assessed what the Argentine was offering to him. In any case, a late long throw for South Melbourne. It was definitely 5 minutes of stoppage time that we've just entered into.
Perhaps now entered into, Lucky. And I don't mean to rain on your parade, but maybe even jumped the gun.
Well, we've learnt tonight numbers clearly not my thing, so.
Well, we find ourselves in the position that we have been so often tonight. This long throw almost found the head of Sawyer, and the attempted clearance completely fluffed by Anthony Lesiotis. Just didn't make contact at all with the ball. Oh, well, not at all, but hardly any.
Would have been better off not making any contact at all.
See payoff perhaps with the signal to his teammates. It's a decent ball and found a teammate as well with the header. It was Jankovic. He got something on it, but not enough to direct it on target.
There's a few hands at play from
So what do the Burgers have left in the tank? Lesiotis and Idara combining. Ellis slides the ball through. It's a good attempt, which finds Pin. Now Yokokawa on the outside. Cross sent in, teed up for Pin. This is near where he scored from the first half, and again he fired on target. That one drawing a strong save from Harvey. Burgers once again with the long throw. Finds a teammate with the header. South Melbourne, though, come away with the ball. No foul called. I understand there may have been a few audio confusions just going on over the last minute or so we do apologise for that. The game heading into its final couple of minutes of action. Sean Ellis sends the cross in, but that one too close to Harvey Lopez. Makes a strong claim and now looks to set his team off. Perhaps one final look forward for South Melbourne. They runs into trouble. Is there to be one more twist in this game?
Yokokawa. Apologies for the audio issues there. Should be all back to normal on the NPL Victoria live stream. And Clear audio and signal for what remains of stoppage time. Here's the Burgers finishing the fastest. The in-swinging corner, glanced away by South. Mikola chests and controls and feeds Payos nicely. Halfpenny on the march. Cut through in the middle. And Fedohajic is the player who walks away having picked up a ticket.
Is there to be one more major roll of the dice for South Melbourne? It's Yankovic who sends it long. Headed in towards Sawyer. And Jamal Ali does well to win his side. A goal kick, and that's full time. 1-1 the score in the Greek derby. An early strike from Harry Sawyer cancelled out by Josh Kim's rocket about 20 minutes later. And so the rare result is the result we get tonight, a draw between South Melbourne and Heidelberg. Which means the Burgers continue their unbeaten run. South's perfect start to the season comes to an end as they drop points for the first time. But 1-1 Lockie, probably a fair reflection of how the game played out in the end.
Yeah, I think it was, and I can't help but wonder, despite the, I guess, breathless first 45, whether the idea, the notion of it still being early in the season, these being two very good teams, knowing that it's a marathon rather than a sprint, that perhaps a point here at Lakeside and the spoil shared in the Greek derby for the first time in 9 years is not the end of the world. But yeah, you have to wonder. Of course, they will have one more regular season meeting at Olympic Village. I don't know, you don't want to go the early crow, Oscar, but it does seem as though perhaps these might be two sides that we'll see at the pointy end of the season and maybe see meet again at the pointy end of the season. But we'll have to wait a while to see whether or not that comes to fruition. Both sides come away without the win, but those who have been watching on, I think, have been the real winners at the end. An entertaining contest that ends Hall Square here at Lakeside Stadium. Thank you for your company for it on NPL Victoria YouTube. From myself, Lockie Flanagan, and from Oscar Rutherford, we sign off from Albert Park. The full-time score here at Lakeside Stadium: South Melbourne 1, Heidelberg United 1.